Hey Stern, we'll be here a while. I will not. I'm going to. Yeah, this probably won't take that long because this stream will just primarily just be a bunch of execution demos. It was just something that was suggested as a useful resource for because there's that a bunch of people that are learning Fire Leaf Green right now, and so a lot of questions about how to do like certain passes and things like that, and so this is going to be a relatively eventually like this will all be just like this will all be like chopped up and uploaded to YouTube as a playlist. So it'll all be available in one place, but just want to do it on stream now because I don't actually know like I know a lot of things that I know would be useful to learn, and I do know like the different variations that you can do, and I can kind of answer questions live. Chat's not going to be on screen just because again this is going to YouTube, so um, kind of keep things as empty as possible, and hopefully it's kind of standalone. Um, so chat won't be on stream as part of the VOD, but um, I'll still be reading chat, and so if you have suggestions, I'm building a list. I'm building a quick list of the different passes that we generally can go over. I because this is a post game surge. This is a post game file, not a like a surge can save file. Um, I can't demo like the Silphco passes. Like at least in real time. A lot of it would have to be kind of like a theoretical explanation of how the passes would work. Without that save file, so I can't really do those, but someone else could probably fill in, and someone else could probably fill in for those, or someone else can send me like a um, send me like a save file that I can just put into my R4 or something. Um, yeah, so I'm compiling the list right now. It's mainly going to be focused on like glitchless specific ones, so I won't really be talking about any post game execution items yet. Um, there's already like that fancy double hiker pass that I do on Six Islands, but that one that one I only showed because it was new. Um, uh, yeah. Oh, actually, no. What I should do? I forgot to do that at the start of stream. Um, oh, the rocket and the rocket pass. Yeah, I need to do that in Rock Tunnel in Mount Moon as well. Yeah, the Rock Tunnel run to bike. Yes, I'll do that as well. That one will probably take a while, but that one's in the dark, right? So yeah, I can definitely demonstrate that one. Oh, Dan as well. The Dan pass. That one will probably be. That one will also take a while because um, Dan pass. Dan pass is just honestly just double bag. Especially yeah, just double bag, just double bag. Um, I will demonstrate it, but Moon rocket. Rock tunnel, run to bike. Oh yes, Koga, right. The Koga one, the Juggler Pass, Lavender Tower. Yes, I'll show this stream will kind of be exhaustive, and so I'll try and show as many different variations as you can, for like different skill levels and different levels of difficulty. I'll try and do as many of those as I can for Vermilion, how to do the Vermilion Gym. Um, I can, but that one's kind of tricky because yeah, I mean, the tricky one about the run to bike and rock tunnel is that you just don't know where the spinner is, and once you kind of like remember where the spinner is, um, the Gen 1 through 3 Discord, um, this will all be posted to YouTube, so there's no need to like enter the stream. I mean, there's no real need to like enter this into the stream. This will all be like cut up and uploaded to YouTube as a playlist. So once that's done, then I'll probably post the link to that playlist later on. But I don't think it's necessary to drop the stream into the Discord. Yeah, I mean this was just a way for this was just kind of like, because I know like a lot of the people that a lot of the target audience, like the people that will benefit the most right away from this list, and obviously this will benefit anyone who's trying to get into Firewood Leaf Green, right? But the sort of the set of people that will kind of immediately gain the most out of it right now, they're mostly in here already. So like I'm doing this as a stream and not kind of like an offline environment because again, I just found like four different. For example, I found like four different passes that off the top of my head that people would have reminded me of, and so that way I can just kind of like do as many as I can in one sitting. I know that there's some that I can't do just because of the nature of the save file. There's some that I can't like directly demonstrate. A lot of it would have to be like, oh, you have to remember that the walker's going to be here, remember that the spinner's going to be here, and they're kind of, you can kind of imagine that they're doing this thing, but a lot of it, if I can actually, if you can actually like see the spinner, what they can do, different ways in which they can kind of like fuck you over, then um it becomes a lot easier to kind of explain and kind of demonstrate how those things work. So the ads should be done. They should have been done a while ago, actually. Safari Zone run to bike. Yes. Okay. Okay. So we'll start with. I guess we'll just go chronologically in the speedrun. It doesn't really matter what order I do it in. But I think chronologically will just help me kind of fill in gaps and stuff. Oh wait, I can't do the rocket pass right now because the rocket's gone in Mount Moon. Yeah, I can't do that pass right now. I can't really demonstrate it, so I'll have to put that in. I can't do that pass right now. So first one we'll do is this. So this is a demonstration of. So this is a demonstration of the last pass. That you would do this pass if you already have a Pokemon in your party that can learn Fly. Normally, if you don't already have like a bird or like a flyer, then you would just kind of like go very far below this way, very far away from the vision, and if you go all the way to the bottom, she can't see you, so you can just kind of go like this to hunt for a bird, right? But if in the event that you already have a bird, and some other very fringe edge cases, this pass will basically allow you to avoid having to step through all that grass, potentially getting an unnecessary encounter. And the demonstration of this pass is basically totally safe. The kind of the beginner friendly way to do it is to just kind of go up to her line of vision and then just enter the bag like that. Or I think you have to bag like this, since you haven't registered the TM case yet at this point in the speedrun. Actually, is that true? Yes, that's true. you do that in Mount Moon. So yeah, you would just bag and then just go. So that's like the safest way to do it, is to just kind of like go up to some point where it's like, you know, she won't be able, because once you enter the bag, the walker's kind of cycle to choose to walk again gets reset. So you can just kind of set up something at some tile behind her. You have to risk a few 1% tiles this way, but no matter what version of the pass you do, you will probably have to do that. And okay, so you can just kind of go like this, and then you can just kind of bag manip and then just go. And then you really don't have to worry about it. And so basically you just kind of set up something behind her, bag manip. And the kind of recurring pattern is that bag manip is always going to be like the surefire way to pass any spinner or walker in this game. Because in Gen 3, bag manips reset their spin cycle, so that any pass you set up basically like the tile before them, as you can see on the screen, will always be safe like that. So the more challenging, but you can call it like the bagless pass. Most spinners, most walkers in this game do not like change direction if you run by them, unlike spinners. They just kind of like do their own thing, and they don't really pay attention to what you're doing. So the fact that you're running by them isn't going to impact what the spinner does. Now, so the bagless version of this pass. So let me just reset her position real quick. So there's two key things here. One is to make sure that you're first, before you do anything, burn 16 frames. So however you want to do it, the way I like to do it is right after this fight is just a double turn frame and then go. Other runners will choose to like turn frame and then walk one, so kind of like this and then go. Again, as long as you burn the 16 frames, it doesn't really matter how. The reason is for this is just because her load zone is like starts somewhere here, so it's easier to just line up the cycle. It's a lot easier to line up the walker cycle if you like burn those 16 frames first and then just go. And the main idea of this pass, and it's kind of the pattern for all walker passes, is to basically just watch what the walker does and run on the tile directly behind them. That's it. It's a very like generic rule of thumb for basically completing any walker pass without a bag. It's very dependent on your reaction times, but it basically allows you to not have to bag, and especially as you're going towards as you kind of like build your way towards the top levels of runs, being able to skip bag manips for these passes and opting to either just do the more advanced walker passes or or some sort of pause manip setup for spinners, those start to become more valuable as you start to improve in skill level. So no matter what she does here, I can just do this a bunch of times, right? Okay, well, I have to. That was a very unfortunate repel timing. Try that again. So you do the fight right after you exit the fight, and then you just waste those 16 frames, right? So I just chose the double turn frame, and then you just watch what the walker does, right? And because in that instance she was like here, right? So she was like here, and so I decided to take this path this way. Yes. This is that the second demonstration is meant to be kind of a bag free version, and this one And there's obviously the more beginner-friendly version where you can come up, go up to her, see what she's doing, and then you can just simulate a bag manip like this, and then just go. Now, there's two different versions of it. One's super beginner-friendly, just walk up, find a tile that's like directly behind her, bag manip, and go. Okay, that'll take care of that one. Wanley, thanks for the luck. Alan, thanks for the luck. Next pass we'll do is the Jovan run to walk, which so basically the idea is if you're there's two variations to if you're not fighting this bug catcher, for example, right? Oh my god, I didn't realize I didn't fight bug catcher in this save file. Let me try that again. So if you're not fighting the bug catcher, you need some sort of way to get around the bug catcher that it'll involve one of two ways to do it. So generally in a race setting, because you have like a million extra repel setups, you're probably going to do something like this. I don't have a regular repel, so we'll just use max. The first way is to just kind of go around this way, around the top, to pick up the rare candy that you need. As so. The rare candy would be like somewhere around here, right? So that's like the super safe way. Doesn't really involve any trainers, but it's like 4 extra steps, which in a race setting you're not really worrying about, but in like a PB attempts, those extra steps can matter because you don't actually have enough repel steps to make it all the way through Mount Moon. So the other option is to set up a run to walk on this spinner here. So this run to walk essentially, oh my god, I'm getting distracted. The idea is that we're taking advantage of the fact that when you run to tiles that are both like above and kind of like adjacent to them in both the vertical and horizontal directions, spinners will prefer to face this vertical direction. Kind of like the priority that's encoded into the game. So what we'll do here is you can see like I can just wait for the spinner to spin, and then he'll always look up when I run to this tile. And with the way that spinner mechanics work in Gen 3, once you force him to look up, he can't pick another direction for another 32 frames. So as long as I go like this, he cannot actually look right in those 16 frames where I'm actually passing him. So if I go like this, that is a totally safe pass every single time. So there's a variation of this where if you're not really comfortable with obviously if you're worried about the passing him in a race environment, you're probably better off just kind of going around the top of this rock this way. But this way saves 4 steps and 8 frames in total. And then you pick up the rare candy and go. Obviously, if you want to like start getting used to this pass, but at the same time you're not really comfortable with the timing of like run to walk, run again, you can always come up to him, and at this point you should already have the TM case registered, so you can just kind of come up to him like this, just bag, and then you can just go. So that's kind of like the intermediate thing if you're like trying to get used to doing like the optimal movement, but you're not quite comfortable with like the exact specifics of the mechanics yet. You can always just kind of set out the bag like this, and then as you start to get more comfortable with kind of alternating between running and walking, right? You can just kind of set up like this, and then eventually just go, and eventually you can just pass them as such. I can't do Moon Rocket yet because the rocket's gone because he already beat Giovanni too. Yeah, run to walks. There's like a ton of them in like Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. But yeah, he's gone. He's like gone. So I can't really do any of like the Sylph passes with Rocket. So what's next on the list? Next on the list would probably be Dan, I guess. This way. Fly out. Dan is here. So I'll be showing both. Actually, I don't think I can show the other Dan pass from the hiker. I'll have to fight the hiker first, which will take some time. So I'll just do that first. It'll take like 20 seconds. So I'll be demonstrating first one from the elixir hiker, and then I'll show the other one from the one from the bottom hiker that you always fight in glitchless, early surge glitchless, or other early surge routes, because. I'll show this one first because there's a little bit more special timing. There's a little bit more of a particular timing to it. So the idea is you fight the hiker from below here. Let's just reset everything. And I pick up the elixir like this. And then, so you have two options here. So once you set this up, if you don't make any mistakes with your movement, this pretty much lines up with this spinner on the right's vision. His vision is 2, so if I walk 1 to the right here, I'm now in the youngster's vision. His name is Dan. So I would need to bag twice if I go to the right here, like this, bag again, and you can just go. So that's kind of like the most, that's like the safest, most beginner-friendly way to pass that spinner. It also removes the need for you to do the movement perfectly, because once you bag manip him like this, you reset a spin cycle. So any mistakes in movement no longer matter. This. Okay. So I made a mistake there, so I wouldn't have really been able to pause anyway, so I can just go with that. Make sure you walk, right? Because if you run, then you force him to. I can just kind of demonstrate. If I run anywhere near this vision here, you see it forces him to look left. So if I run to the tile below, it'll trigger the battle. So make sure when you're setting up this bag here, you are set as a bag, and then you walk to this next tile. That's really important. And then you walk to this next tile as well, and then before you start running. So now, oh wow, that was a bad bag. You definitely could have seen me there. So now the second demonstration is I guess like the bagless pass, right? The one that will just involve a combination of a start flash, kind of like a start flash to kind of pause and see where Dan is looking, and then it will be a run to walk, a similar run to walk as the one I showed, a similar run to walk to the one in Mount Moon, but there's a little bit more like tricky directional variance involved. So I can just demonstrate it once. See, actually, if I get it right, I haven't done it in a while. So couple things here. So you notice that when I paused here, this is supposed to line up with this cycle here. And then I would walk one tile to the right, and then it doesn't really matter what I do on this tile here. Once I get to this tile, I can choose to run or walk. The most important one is that you run here. Run to this tile here, because that will force him to look up, and then it will be a safe pass once you go below. So that's the main idea with the bagless stand pass. I obviously choose to. It's a personal preference for me to run to this tile and then to this one. It's just a preference timing thing. Not only is it more optimal, I just found it easier than to like run exactly one tile, because most often me personally, I end up just walking the tile that I needed to run. Like if I only walk here, sometimes like you miss the timing to run on this tile and you're just walking this whole thing, which risks Dan seeing you. Is there anything else? I'm gonna do this hiker as well. So this hiker, the setup for this run to bike is a little bit easier. You can even choose a setup from here. Have the hiker walk the one tile to you, so you don't really have to worry about this first cycle. So what you can do here is, after the fight, you can just run up, turn frame, bag again, and then just go. So what this does is that it basically ensures that Dan does not have like one, because his spinner cycle resets after fighting the hiker on hiker Wayne on the left here. If you in fact, if you really wanted to, you can just bag here. You don't have to change your direction either. That's just something I do. You can just run up, bag, turn frame, bag, and if you are fast enough and can kind of and press the select button within 8 frames of arriving on the tile, this will also be a safe, and just go. That's kind of like the completely safe, beginner-friendly version. There's 2 other variations of passes that you can do from this hiker here. First one is to just do a full YOLO. So from here, you can just run 3 tiles and get hit and get seen by him. But the idea is you just kind of accept the 1 in 16 risk, so that 1 in 16 risk of him seeing you, so that you don't have to do anything complicated. But that would also involve no bags. Yes, running spinners have like a specific range in which they start like I'll call it spotting, right? So they start kind of like they kind of like start spotting you within when you're in a specific range. It's not necessarily like their vision. I'm not exactly sure how it's related, but only when you get like specifically close to them. I have to reset the hiker to show the other pass, but where do I have to go? So there's another way you can pass him that's that doesn't involve like a bag or 1 in 16, but it does allow Dan to have a chance to spin. before you set up the pass. So you go run 4 tiles here. And what I do here is called a turn frame cancel. So if you change direction like this, if you change, usually when you're changing direction while stationary, it introduces what's called a turn frame. So you notice that I waste some time before I actually start moving left like this, right? And it's magnified so when I do it running, versus if I'm like already moving and I change direction, it doesn't introduce that turning animation, right? Another way you can cancel it, a couple ways you can cancel it. One is by bonking into something to kind of tell the game that I'm technically in motion, even though I'm not, right? But you can kind of like tell the game I'm technically in motion. So if I bonk and go, I can kind of skip this what we call a turn frame. I can skip the turn frame animation. Another way to do it is by combining the direction change with like a start flash or opening the TM case or something. So if you can like bag manip and turn frame at the same time. And that's one of the ways in which I can make the window for this pass as lenient as possible. So you notice that I'm basically trying to press start as soon as I'm ready to change direction. So instead of introducing the full 8 frames, I'm only wasting like maybe 1 or 2, and it makes it so that I can just pass like that. And again, from here, you could also, just double bag. But if you're going to double bag, you're better off. You are better off setting up the hiker fight here, so that you don't introduce like that first spin cycle. Because the hiker fight, as I said, the hiker fight resets. Probably. I don't really pay attention to the text boxes of the game, but. After a fight, or when entering a new area, or from exiting the bag, you reset the spin cycle so that they can't move for another 32 frames. Running is 8 frames per tile, so I can imagine 1, 2, 3. That's 24 frames. So if I just bag here, the spinner cannot change direction by the time I get to this tile, and I can just not be an idiot. But instead, I can just double bag right off the bat from that specific tile. This is Route 4. This is not the place to go. I think that'll cover Dan. I might do something a little bit cleaner, because there's probably a better way to demonstrate the Dan pass that involves fewer mistakes. But that's kind of the gist of how the Dan pass works. Message. I think I set a time limit on. I guess we'll go to Route 9. I think Route 9 should be next. So this is the this is kind of like the most. This is kind of like the most well-known run to bike in this game. So basically, the gist of this this pass is that you want to find a way to pass. You have to fight that picnicker up there, and then you have to you need to pass this hiker here, hiker right below here. So his vision extends all the way up to this cliff here. So a couple ways you can do it. You can just kind of go up here and then just bag manip. Again, bag manip is like the 100% surefire way to pass any spinner in the game. So you can just kind of like go up, make sure he's not looking up, wait, go. Pretty straightforward. How do I reset this? So the other way to do it is what's known as a run to bike, where you run the specific tile to basically engage their vision and force them to look left, force the hiker to look the direction that you want, and then get on the bike and pass their vision before they have a chance to look again. So in this specific example of the run to bike, kind of in the most optimal way, you would run to this tile. I believe it's, actually don't remember. Yeah, I think it's this tile here. Yeah, so it's this tile here. You see how I stop running and then get on the bike? I let go of the D-pad. So you kind of run, stop, get on the bike like this. Yeah, you run to the tile, you want to hop on the bike and go. You have an 8-frame window, get on the bike and go. And if you like mess it up, for example, if you like don't get on the bike for some reason, you go like this, you can always reset it up. Just make sure that you're running through this tile here. Getting on the bike works like opening the bag. Running to this tile sort of is like a bag manip, but it's not quite as forgiving. So it does reset their cycle. So if I were to like run to this tile and then bag and then go, that's also a safe pass, and that's a totally acceptable way to, totally valid way to do it. And in fact, if you were going to bag manip and also kind of start to learn the mechanics of the run to bike, this is a perfect way to ensure that you don't have to wait for the spinner, and then you can bag manip and then go. So that gets rid of like the 8-frame window that you have to actually get on the bike and go. It just makes that pass entirely. It makes the pass trivial once you enter the bike. So there's actually a secondary way you can do this run to bike. You can actually hop down this ledge here, and you can basically run like all the way up here. So you can hop down the ledge and then basically go up to this tile. So you have now 2 more tiles of leeway here. And like the visual cue is a little bit easier, and you have like a much larger window to get on the bike and go. So before you had to get here, and so you only had an 8-frame window. At this point here, you have a like 20-frame window to get on the bike, which is like 1/3 of a second. And once you get to the point of the game where you kind of have the feel of getting to the run to bike, a 20-frame window is pretty trivial to perform a run to bike. So you can come all the way down here and just go. This one is a little bit slower because again, you're hopping the ledge, which is half a second, and then you also have to take those 2 tiles back up, which is another 12 frames. So it's like about a second slower. Not to mention it's about a second slower to do it this way. And in a lot of cases, you're probably just better off setting up here and then just back nipping. That's just kind of as my personal, suggestion. You're better off just like remembering the tile here. So the second tile, once you get to the ledge, so you can go here, 1, 2, and you notice that that hiker was looking up, but then he spun left to try and catch you in their vision. So yeah, so just as a summary, you can just kind of do a naive run to bike that doesn't really involve any spinner manips. You just wait for him and bag, or you can run to this specific tile kind of as like a stepping stone to learning the run to bike. You can run up to this tile, just kind of practice getting on the bike quickly, right? So you can kind of begin to understand, feel the 8-frame window, that you have to actually perform the run to bike here. How to know if a bike mount is too slow? It's hard to say, right? Because 8 frames is relatively quick. Again, it's a lot of feel. The idea is to just kind of see if you can have a gap where you're letting go of the D-pad here, getting on the bike and go. So you don't want to be holding left the entire time, because you kind of need to be not holding a D-pad direction to consistently mount for whatever reason. So ideally, run to the tile, quickly let go of the D-pad, mount, and then re-engage the direction that you were going. And it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of... Is it objectively faster to fight Alicia from the top? Yes. The exclamation point animation is about a second, and running the 2 tiles, the 2 extra tiles, is 12 frames. So it's 48 frames faster to 47, I guess, if you have to bonk, right? It's like 3/4 of a second faster to talk to Alicia, start the fight from the top, and then like bonk into her, and then just go. Set up the run to bike. The most optimal way, yes, even if you fail the turn frame, it is still well faster. There's like there's an optimized version where you don't like dismount. These are like details, but you can like when you talk to Alicia, you can still be on the bike and then just hop down the ledge while still on the bike, and then just go like something like this. I generally don't recommend that unless you are really confident in your ability to mount and dismount the bike quickly. Generally, you're gonna hop off the bike on Alicia fight, bonk it to her, turn around, hop down the ledge, and then just set up the run. Okay, next one. Next one is the dark run to bike. The nerd tryhard pass. Yeah, I did a version of that before, and then I reverted back to dismounting on Alicia. Actually, this is actually faster to set up from the other side. I'm gonna go to Lavender real quick. There's an optional pass for this walker here. I can demonstrate it if you want, but I'll probably be one of the last ones. This is the Rock Tunnel Dark Run to Bike. And the main challenge is the fact that you're in the dark. Do I know Flash? I don't. Do I have a Pokemon in my party that can learn Flash? I don't even have Flash. You have to talk to a scientist to get it. I don't even remember which one. It's probably the one in Vermilion or something, but it's not important. So the main idea is that you have to know how. The main thing is just knowing where the spinner is, and it's just once you talk to the hiker, it's like down 1, 1, 2, 3. So it's generally 2 away from this hiker. So you're like lining up this tile, and then you just run up like 5 or 6 tiles, like so. And this is actually, you can perform the same run to walk as the one in Mount Moon. The spinner will always look down when you approach the tile here. The same is the case as you go, I think, like up to like 2 tiles below here, maybe even a 3rd. But generally, once you can see him like this, you can actually feel free to stop. And like with any beginner-friendly beginner-friendly spinner pass, you can, like, once you see him, you can stop. Right, so you can kind of like just run one at a time until you see him. Feel free to reset him if you want. It's like, oh, I see him. I didn't react in time. Just reset him. Run the tile up. You can feel free to bag and then pass. That's like the super beginner-friendly, safe way to do it. And then the second stage is the run to walk. Oh, great repel techs were out. Unintentional, but you know, that's never gonna happen in the run. But so the second, kind of like the second iteration of this would be. That's not right. Run to walk. Right. And again, because you're running to a tile that's above and that's vertically adjacent and horizontally adjacent here, one away in kind of both the vertical and the horizontal directions, you always favor the vertical to pick the vertical direction. So he'll always look up here, and then because that resets the spin cycle, you now have 32 frames to perform a 16 frame walk past. Something like that. So that's the second iteration. The third iteration is a run to bike, which is a little bit faster because biking is just faster than walking. You go over the Oranberry Walker. Ooh, I can actually demonstrate that. I can add that to the list. Okay, so the third version is a run to bike. So, yeah, and the reason you dismount before fighting this hiker here is just because running just is a little bit easier to set up this run to bike pass here. So again, you're just down one, left three, and then up a bunch. I actually don't know the exact number. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 up. Right, so you can kind of count 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. And a lot of it for me is just going by feel. So you can just kind of go, whoop. Try it again. Couple things here. One is because you have a couple tiles of leeway here. You accidentally get on the bike early, as long as you commit to it, it's going to be a safe pass. The second thing that I do that you'll notice is I dismount before going through the ladder here. This is because you'll see that there's like a significant amount of audio lag. That the game is trying to, like, when you perform the run to bike and then go into the ladder, the game is trying to, like, there's a bit of delay, right? Generally, there's a delay between when the rock tunnel music plays and when the bike music plays. And so it takes some time to put in the bike music, but then it realizes, oh, I'm in a new room. I need to replay the rock tunnel music now. So it's spending some time basically like fumbling between the tracks, and you can avoid that by dismounting the bike. And you notice it's significantly faster putting back on the rock tunnel track when I dismount. So what we call audio lag, there's a way to get rid of the audio lag just by dismounting pretty much any time before you enter the ladder. The most optimal point to do it is here on this tile, so that it doesn't introduce a turn frame compared to if you do it here. A lot of runners will do it here, and that's totally fine. But it's just that when you dismount, unless you do it like frame perfectly, it will introduce a turn frame here. But unfortunately, the spinner's vision also kind of crosses one tile below the ladder. So if you bike to here and then for whatever reason you like get off early, like here, and then you go up and left, you'll hit the spinner. So you do run the risk of, like, if you don't specifically get off on this tile, get off the bike and go up left. It's a little bit riskier if you don't do it correctly. So a lot of runners will just like, okay, I'm gonna line up with the ladder just to be safe, and then turn frame go. But dismounting on this tile is just the fastest. 6 frames faster. So overall, just kind of reiterate, bonk here. Oh, that's a turn frame. That's the run to bike. So me personally, I do a variation of it where I don't dismount on the hiker. So I dismount once I get to like here. So I line up with the hiker here. So like, I can just kind of have a second. One, it skips like, this skips the mount and dismount here. So I don't have to like bonk off the guy. I can just go and then set up the run. Oh, wow, I messed that up. But yeah, that's just kind of like the timing that I personally go for. What amount of bonk is needed to avoid turn frames? So it doesn't really matter. Like, you can bonk for as long as... I can just hold up here, and I will never get the turn frame. It's just that because the turn frame is only 8 frames, if you're bonking too slow, you're better off... It ends up being slower. But the main benefit of the bonk is that because it's much more responsive to like to D-pad directional changes. Because anytime you decide to go right here, anytime I decide I want to go right, it'll immediately go right. Versus if I'm just stationary, there's like a bit of a delay to when I actually start going right, which can mess with your muscle memory. So most cases, you're better off like seeing or hearing the bonk and then going. That's like the most consistent way to skip the turn frame. We'll do the Oranberry pass. This isn't a pass, yes, this is just doing the movement correctly and not wasting tiles, but it is an important mechanic. Ah, didn't do it right. It's a pretty straightforward pass as long as you know the exact movement you need to take. It is possible to do it too fast. If you like bonk frame perfectly, get like the exact like 1 frame bonk, and then waste basically 0 time when actually picking up the Oranberry. So for context, why doesn't that look right? So generally, when you perform the run to bike here, oh, not a run to bike, when you perform the Movement. I think he's just loaded super early. When you perform, once you fight this hiker, you want to pick up. This is a hidden item, and it's actually an oranberry. That will be useful for Koga, or can be useful for Koga, Agatha, combination of some other fights. So generally when you pick up the oranberry, the youngster is kind of generally in this tile vicinity. So you pick it up. So this pause represents I'm picking up the oranberry, and then you can just go. So, for example, if you do the pass frame perfectly, you notice that the youngster's feet are together. That's like your visual cue that you're actually doing it too fast. If I were to go here, I would actually run into the youngster's vision because he like runs a little bit further down past like these bushes before he actually changes direction to go back up. So you just want to delay a little bit and then go. So the visual cue is like this kind of lineup with the bushes, and to make sure that his feet, as he's passing the tile, that his feet are apart when you pick up the oranberry. So this would be like a safe visual cue. This visual cue here would be like safe for you to like once you pick up the oranberry, just immediately run and go. But this, for example, would not be safe. You're too fast, and you would need to just kind of wait a little bit, kind of just pause a little bit before you pass the youngster. Yeah, so if you mess up, just you can do something like this where you can just kind of pause, make sure that he's like setting up the run like this, right? So this is totally fine even if you're a little slow. Yeah, and so if you set it up so like here, then you can just kind of like press start to make sure until something like this position. This is like a surefire way to go. I don't actually know the range of like how far up and down he walks, so that it's still a safe pass once you pick up the oranberry. I don't actually know that range. I just know like this is like the visual cue I use to know that it's safe. Okay, Lavender Tower, run to Lavender Tower. Next. This pass here, I set it up. It's going to be on the middle floor here. This floor here. So this trainer here, the spinner, and her vision is 2. So there's no safe way for me to go without her potentially seeing me. All these 2 tiles right below her are both in her vision. So Drew pass, yes, that's the Dan pass. So there's technically an odd number of walking tiles to get up to this tile here. So you need to waste 16 frames somewhere along this path. There's 2 ways to do it. One is to actually let me set that up again. One is to just turn frame here, and then turn frame again. And you notice that she basically chose to spin pretty much right as I got to this tile. My second turn frame was a little bit slow, so it was a little bit before, but this would still be a safe pass. The second way to do it is to just double turn frame right away. That would be safe as well. Yes, and obviously, you know, you can just walk up and then bag manip. Like with any pass, you don't have to do any of these turn frame. If you choose just to bag manip her, like for example, if you need to potion, if Lavender Rival puts you at a very low HP and you need to potion so that you don't die to like quick attacks on the top floor, you don't need to do any of these turn frame movements. That's actually an important detail to note. You can just kind of do the optimal movement and then just bag. But if you're going for like a bagless pass, you need to find a way you just need to burn 16 frames somehow. Doesn't really matter how you do it. Again, it's more about making sure that you're just spending enough time so that by the time you get to this tile here, you're getting up to this tile here right when right at her spin cycle, so that if she's not looking down by the time you get to this point, she cannot choose to spin again until you've already passed her. That's kind of the idea for all start flash passes. And if this happens, you just can wait. You can choose to bag manip again. You can just choose to bag manip and pass again. Can you explain quick spin? Yes. I will do that somewhere else, though. Lavender Tower is kind of slow. I will demonstrate it somewhere else. I'll do it in Koga's gym. I'll do Koga's gym first, and then I'll do the bikers, because the bikers will probably take me a while to demo. So there's a spinner in Koga's gym. Not this guy. This guy's a mandatory trainer. This guy here is a spinner. And his vision, I actually don't know what his vision is, but the important part is that he can look left here. Actually, we might as well find out. Does his vision go down here? It doesn't. Vision to go to here? It probably will. So let's just say his vision is like... His vision will... There's a wall here, and so you have to pass him in some capacity. Obviously, you know, as with any safe Gen 3 spinner pass, you can just walk up, bag manip, and go. But for the bagless version, there's two ways to set it up. So this trainer, you can either fight him from here, which would reset the spin cycle here, and then you can just walk up and set it to start flash there. Pretty straightforward. The idea is that you're just walking an even number of tiles. So once you get up to this point, notice that he looked down right as I got to this tile to press start. I'm pretty sure that's, yeah. So, because he immediately chose to change direction, he cannot choose to change direction again. How do you do that bag manip? The bag manip is just, you just enter the bag and just go. Pretty straightforward. Oh, accessing the bag without pressing start. Oh, that's just a convenient thing. You just register the TM case. At this point in the speedrun, though, you'll already have the bike registered, so you can't just do a select bag in Koga's gym. It was just a convenient thing for me to do. Yeah, Prince is right. Start flashing. It will pause the spinner so that they can't like continue spinning while the start menu is up. but it does not reset their spin cycle either. It just kind of like pauses them. So the main gist of a start flash pass is you perform a certain number of frames of movement so that it's like something divisible by evenly divisible with the spinner spin cycle. So here it's like a multiple of 32 frames. So it would be like I think there's like 6 tiles here, so it's like three spin cycles that happen here. And then once I get to this tile here, the tile before I need to pass him, you notice that he just chose to look left, which is kind of troll. Then I can just wait for him and back him up again. Another thing that you can do is when the spinner chooses to, when you see the spinner change direction, you can set up what's called a double turn. You can set up a start flash instead of back nipping. So if you're already here, for example, and you notice that he like looked left, something like this, right? What you can do is there's a couple ways to pass him without actually entering the bag, and it involves a similar thing where you're just doing movement to a combination of my reaction time and movement to pass the spinner here. So what I can do is I can start down here. You notice that I combined my reaction time with walking one tile, and that's going to line up with about 32 frames. That's one way to do it. That wasn't safe. Notice that he looked down right as I got to this tile, and it's basically the same kind of like mini mechanic where now this is a safe pass again. The second option is to, in general, the goal is to like waste about 16 frames, and most human reaction times will not be so fast that you can perform the 16 frames of movement before the spinner's next spin cycle. So most players, especially when they're kind of like a speedrun environment, won't have a reaction time of less than 16 frames. And we're basically counting on the fact that you don't need to be too fast, as long as you're also not like unreasonably slow, something like over half a second. So in general, like, if you're paying close enough attention, generally within like the 16 to 48 frame window, I think that you need, very reasonable to perform this pass. The second way to do it, right, is to set up double turn frame. Again, we're just finding another variation of ways to save 16 frames. But this one just doesn't involve you having to take a step back, which can mess up your reaction if the spinner chose to spin again by the time you're like all set up. So that's a safe pass. And that a lot of these bagless passes were inspired by Gen 4 passes. Where bag nipping doesn't actually reset the spinners. So they found nice little mini setups so that they can also have those share those same safe passes that we would have. So I showed you the first setup, which is to let this juggler see you, and then once you exit the fight, like this, walk up, pause, and go. So the slightly more advanced version, this one is 12 frames faster. It's to actually talk to the juggler from below. This will save a second not getting the exclamation point animation from walking into his vision. But you have to walk the 2 tiles to get to here. And then you also, because of the nature of like how this spinner is loaded, he's actually loaded kind of like as you're crossing into this tile. And also I think he's loaded once you get to like this tile here. So now you're actually performing an odd number of steps. So once you get to here, you actually need to perform like a double turn frame here before this pass is safe. And again, it's just under the principle that I need to perform like a multiple of 32 number of frames while the spinner is loaded, so that the pass would become safe. So if I don't perform the 2 turn frames, I'm now kind of like in the middle of the spinner cycle, and this pass is no longer safe. So this is the version that I do because it's faster and because I'm not really the 2 turn frames don't really bother me all that much. The way that I suggest doing the turn frames is, for me personally, I don't actually do the turn frames up here right before him. I actually do them a tile below. What this ensures is that I'm basically holding the direction before I start flash, and that just allows me to gives me the biggest window to pass the spinner as possible. So for example, if I double turn frame here, remember it's actually possible to basically, if you do it too fast, you can actually cancel the turn frame, which is actually in your detriment, because now you're not spending enough frames to actually realign with the spinner cycle. So if you turn frame here, you just risk that potentially happening, which is why I choose to double turn frame like the tile before, so that I can ensure that I'm stopping, double turn framing, and going. So I get to spend the full 16 frames from the 2 turn frames, and the fact that I get to hold this direction before I pause just kind of gives me like the biggest frame window to just kind of see what he's doing and safely passing. So just as another demonstration, this is pass 1. So from here, go, no turn framing needed, and set up here. Second version is to you go up here, talk to the juggler from here. Double turn frame. Pause, go. Quick spins. I'm not sure what there is to talk about. So spinners can choose to spin every 32 frames, and they have a 1 in n just being the number of directions, 1 in 4 times 1 over n, like n being just the number of directions that you can choose. This spinner can choose 4 directions, so he's 1 in 16. You just pick to just repick your direction. And again, it's like the principle with a start flash pass is that if at this point the spinner is not looking in your direction, then the spinner cannot choose to spin again until after you've already passed them. In the event that they do, you have 2 options. Again, it just kind of like redirects the flowchart to now. You can either choose, as I demonstrated a couple of the mini mechanics earlier, so you can choose to double turn frame like this, kind of like as a mini setup, or you can kind of do this setup, or you can just backman it. Doesn't really matter. The idea is you're just waiting at this point for him to look away. And there's nothing you can really do if he just happens to look your direction as you finish doing like the bagless setup. Just unlucky, and then you just have to wait. Yeah, main just got unlucky. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. Obviously, the safest way to do it is just the bagmanip. And the idea is that every time the spinner looks away, they can't choose to respin again for another 32 frames. So So what main did there was that he was combining his reaction time with with the 16 frames of movement, the double turn frame, to hopefully land at some point between like frame 32 and frame 64. That's basically what's important, right? And it's not exactly that. It's like 32 and 48 actually, I think is what it is, because you actually need to walk past as well. So it's not it's not precise. You don't need to be precise. As long as you're reasonably kind of like within the reasonable human reaction time, that pace, that kind of like mini setup will be safe. Now for the fun one. Everyone's favorite is the bikers. Taking a All right, so the bikers. The bikers is a very interesting kind of case study for passes because, as you can see here, there's 3 spinners. There's 3 spinners that you have to worry about here. 2 primarily, but the third one. So I just kind of like name them all. I just kind of like label them going from right to left. So there's biker 1 here. This guy here. To our bottom left is biker 2. And this third biker here is biker 3. So that's just kind of how I'm going to label it. And the idea is that all these bikers here have a vision of 1. So for example, this is a safe tile. This is a safe tile. And obviously the ones kind of like in their corner adjacents will also be safe tiles, but any tile where you're directly adjacent to a biker is not a safe tile. So the idea is kind of in line with the principle of other start passes, that we're just trying to burn enough frames to line up with the biker's spin cycle, with biker 1's spin cycle in particular. That once I get here, I'm trying to guarantee a safe pass. Well, I can just kind of demonstrate what you can do here. So the first thing you can do is, as with any Gen 3 spinner pass, you can always just feel free to just bag manip, and call it a day. There's another version of this, of a bag manip, that's basically pseudo-safe as well. That only involves 1 bag, but it's a little bit more exact. This is not very commonly seen in runs nowadays. You go up to this tile here, bag manip, and go. So that's a safe pass because you're traveling 5 tiles relative to the spinner, and you have 32 frames to do it. So as long as you're not reacting too slow, before you set up the bag manip, you're not really giving biker 2 a chance to spin. And that's basically what you're counting on when you're performing that manip. But obviously, because everything is so exact, yeah. And if you bonk and don't react in time, then you're at risk of getting hit. Yeah. And if you bonk at any time, at any point before you perform your first pause, you can always just exit the cycling path. So for example, I do something like, oh no, I made a mistake. I can just go back and just reset it up. And that's generally going to be easier than having to bag here and then just having to deal with like strange spin cycles and setups that you're not used to. So now that we've gotten those out of the way, we're going to the most common bagless pass that runners do nowadays, which is just a double start flash. One start flash basically per spin cycle. So the main idea here is so we're trying to waste 32 frames. And me from here, it wastes a frame to go to bikes have a 1 frame turn frame instead of 8 when you're off the bike. So it takes 1 frame to change direction to go up here, and then another 6 frames to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. So that's 30 frames. And I, just to ensure that I don't do everything like frame perfectly, that I, for example, I don't start flash frame perfectly, you can actually look up here. Bonk into the fence, and that wastes another frame. So something like this. That basically guarantees that you're actually pausing after the spin cycle instead of before. It's definitely possible to just kind of go up here, start flash frame perfectly, and all of a sudden you're just like getting surprise spun because you did everything too quickly. So just to be safe, right, you just go up and bonk into the fence quickly. You don't want to do it too slow because that could potentially make you late later on. So just bonk really quickly. Just to ensure that you're only wasting like 1 frame instead of potentially like 10, 11, 12. Then it starts to get into the gray area of now the second part of this pass would potentially become unsafe. So from here, we've wasted about 32 frames, right? And now we need to basically, first of all, we're looking at biker 1 to see which direction he's facing, and then we either pass him counterclockwise or clockwise around him, right? So counterclockwise would be I go around, I go kind of above him and to his left. The clockwise version would be to go to his right and below. And so if depending on which way biker 1 is facing, you're going to choose one of those 2 paths to get to this tile here. And once you get to this tile, you need to wait. You need to waste 8 frames somehow. So you don't want to do it too quickly either. Right here. So imagine once I'm here, right? I don't want to start flash the second time too quickly, right? Because I'm performing 4 biking tiles, and depending on how slowly I obviously did this like first section here, I want to hopefully avoid doing it too quickly, so I don't want to just like instantly start flash right away. This is something where you can kind of like definitely don't want to rush, but you also don't want to necessarily take too much time either. Similar to like a double turn frame mini setup. So you notice like there was just a hint of a pause. There was a hint of a pause before I start flash the second time. And then what you're basically doing then is pause it again. So I'm at this tile, and now I'm basically re-examining those 3 bikers again, right? I have to determine, okay, once I get here, I'm figuring out a path depending on which way bikers 1, 2, and 3 are facing. So from here, you have 2 options. One is like, okay, I only want to focus on biker 2, so I'm just going to wait for him to stop looking up, and then I go. Or once he changes direction, I can just bag again. If I don't want to do a reactionary time, I don't want to do a pass based on purely reaction time, I can just bag here and then just go. Also fine. So you can just try it again. So now that he's looking up, right? Me taking the counterclockwise path is no longer safe. So now I'm going to kind of redirect my attention to going around this way to get to this tile. So it can be kind of sectioned off into kind of like sub situations where it's like, okay, I performed the first pass. Once I perform the first pass, the second pass is pretty much independent of what happened beforehand. Like once I completed the first start flash and I've reached the second, it's basically a brand new situation now. I don't really have to consider any information from before. I just need to basically look at what's on the screen. So again, you can just choose to wait for him to spin away, and then just kind of react and perform the pass as needed. So I'm just going to bag here just to be safe. And then just bag again if I need to be safe, and just go. You can choose to just go if without bagging, without bag manipulating. If you because again, there's no turn frames, there's no like significant turn frames on a bike, and it's about 6 frames per tile, so you have like a good 0.4 of a second to react to the biker actually changing direction. So most intermediate to advanced level runners will just they'll just like wait like this and then just go, and that can buy them like 2 biking tiles before they have to like set up a pause or potentially another bag manip, for example. Yeah. So there's probably like 30 different variations that you can do of this biker pass. I'm going to demonstrate. They're all extremely situational, but I can just kind of demonstrate one here. Oh, that wasn't right. That's like kind of like the most common example where nothing really happens, and I can just once I set up the double pauses, I don't really have to worry about doing any fancy movement. I'm gonna wait for this biker to look up. So, for example, in this situation, you have a couple choices here. Because of this specific orientation, I can actually just go, oh, not like that. I was only supposed to go 2 tiles. Anyway. That's the tricky situation if you get into a very strange biker situation. It's very easy to like make a mistake, go too far or something like that. So that is one of the challenges with the biker pass, and why for me it took so much practice to get comfortable with like reading all the situations. So, for example, in this situation, it's like a very niche scenario where Biker 1 and Biker 3 aren't looking towards the center, aren't looking like towards the center here. So I can actually do like an up, left, left, down, something like that. And this is actually safe. So I don't actually have to wait for the biker. But that's, again, that's a very niche, specific scenario. You have to be, A, looking for it, and 2, know that pass is going to be safe before actually executing it. Otherwise, you will hit the spinners. That's like a neat little pocket movement that you can do. But again, it's very specific and very situational. Now the last version, the most advanced version, and the version of the biker's pass that only I do basically, is a more aggressive, kind of more in traffic kind of version of this biker pass, where I combine like this pass here with the start flashes. So now with this start flash here, I now have to worry about bikers 1 and 2. So there's more information for me to need to process. But there are a couple benefits here. One is that I'm saving 12 frames because I'm saving 2 tiles not going all the way up here. Two, the second benefit is that the second pause, because I'm saving 2 tiles, the second pause is happening here. So now I only need to worry about if biker 2 is looking left. If biker 2 is looking up, it's now completely inconsequential. Whereas with the previous doubles pause setup that I was doing, if biker 2 was looking up, I now would have to wait. But in this situation, if biker 2 is looking up, I'm not gonna. Biker 2 is like looking up for whatever reason, then, you know, it doesn't matter. I can just pass, right? Because I've already passed him like kind of in the above direction at that point. So the risk for one is that now if biker 2 looks right at this scenario, I'm basically screwed, right? I basically can't pass. That is like the one downside. It's like if you get this specific scenario where biker 2 is looking right and biker 1 is looking down, and I'm basically just trapped here, you have to do some combination of like bag manip, waiting, and basically just do like a freehand pass to get past. But yeah, I won't go into too much detail about how that pass works again because it's very aggressive. I don't recommend it unless you're very comfortable. You're very comfortable doing many different variations of the biker pass that involve, and you're also very comfortable like processing the three, looking at and processing the 3 bikers all at the same time and kind of very quickly. But I wanted to demonstrate it because in this situation, right, because it was biker 3 was looking down and 2 was looking left, I just kind of have to wait and just go before I go. But again, the main benefit is that I would only have to wait once instead of potentially having to wait past the biker 2 from above and past biker 2 on the left. I think that's everything. Yeah, that was a very long, kind of messy demonstration in one go of all the mechanics. In fact, I'll probably just go over all of them very quickly one more time, just kind of as a quick summary run through. So to kind of run down how how spinners work. The main idea for setting up a spinner pass is either you can just choose to bag manip and not have to worry about any sort of setup, which is totally fine, totally reasonable, very beginner friendly. The second bagless version, which will have a faster top end, but will introduce a higher skill ceiling and I guess also a higher skill demand, involves spending a specific amount of time doing the movement so that once you get to the tile, once you're prepared to actually pass the spinner's in a state where if they're not already looking in your direction or like blocking you, they cannot look in your direction by the time you perform the pass, right? So it's just performing like a 32, 64, etc. frames of movement for all the spinners that I've demonstrated here. There are a couple of exceptions that if I have it, once I get a Surge save file, I don't know when that's actually going to be, but in the Sylph pass, Have you also mentioned when bag manipulating, closing the bag with start and not B? Yes, that is also something that you should do. Or closing start with, closing the start menu with start. Yes, that is also important. In most places where you can run, and yes, that is also important. You want to close the start menu with start. So just kind of as a quick rundown. Wait 16 frames. Go. That safe, I'm pretty sure was safe because even though I bonked, I was fast enough where she couldn't walk again. And then for this pass here, I'll get off the bike. This pass here, you can either choose to run around this rock this way, right, and avoid the spinner, or you can perform a run to walk. With Dan, you're essentially performing a start. You can either double bag, or you can perform a. You basically have to run on that specific tile. On this specific this tile here. That you get so that he's forced to look up, and then you can pass safely down. On his left side. The Oranberry pass here. You want to wait until he's like around here. Ensure that it's safe. In general, you're not going to have to wait for that to happen, but because I didn't do any of the fights, it messed with the walking cycle. But in a real run, you're probably not going to have to wait for him to be in that position. As long as you're not doing it too fast, that walker will just kind of naturally just be kind of like in that position on that tile. Route 9. So you initiate the fight here, then run up to this tile here, force the hiker to look left, get on the bike and go. And for the dark run to bike, it's just about keeping track of the number of tiles that you're taking before you perform the pass. We went over the run to walk and the run to bike. What level should you be for Solf? Rival glitchless, 44, and then 45 for Gyarados. Key here is to just make sure that you're running like the correct number of tiles. So you just want to be 2 away from the hiker. That's like the vertical lineup you want to be on. And here it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4 bike, get on and go. Or right? You just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, walk, go. Many variations you can do here. And remember to get off the bike before you enter the ladder. How you do it, again, is up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. What was after that? Koga Pass. So there's two versions. Actually, I'll show this version first. Where you just kind of walk up, you talk to the juggler from this tile here, let him see you, and you just walk up, start flash, and go. Oh, it's frame perfect. Second version is to talk to him from below, which is a little bit faster, but a little bit more skill demanding. You need to waste 2 more turn frames to line up his cycle here. And you notice looking right as I got to this tile, so that I can basically verify that that's a safe pass. And with the bikers, takes a lot of practice. Practice a lot. Look at different situations. And once you pause, you don't, again, because the spinner cycles are not reset, but they are paused. So if you need to, take as much time as you need to just kind of look over what the bikers are, where the bikers are looking, and just figure out your next step. I messed it up. So, example 1. Setup pause. The one that I do here is going from below. A little bit faster, a little bit riskier, a little bit more kind of in traffic. And the safe bag pass. Something like this. Go. Yeah, that's the demonstration of all the passes. A little bit into a specific, like a special situation, while actually demonstrating Koga's gym. So one of the passes that I noticed you can't do is this spinner right here. This spinner is a special type of spinner. We call him types. We call this spinner a type C. And the gist is that their spin cycles do not permit start flashes. Because their spin cycles, if they don't actually choose to spin, their cycles, instead of every 32 frames, it becomes 32 frames and then every 16 frames thereafter. So because walking takes 16 frames, there is no safe bag manipping. These spinners are the only way to pass these spinners from the get-go. The only exception, which I can't really demonstrate here, is in Silphco, where they're actually starting by default looking in your direction, and they can like quick spin to look away. That's a different setup, which I don't actually have the right save file to do it, because that rocket's actually gone once you get to post game, so I can't demonstrate it here. But the idea is that, yeah, so for this spinner in particular, it's not like I can just set up a special pause, and then be able to go. Conveniently, you have to teach surf here anyways, so in most cases, you're not really concerned with having to do a bagless pass for the spinner anyway. But there are exceptions for certain spinners where generally the rule is if they're looking if they're looking in adjacent directions, so if they're looking, you know, down, or if they can only choose to pick down or right, that's kind of the rule of thumb, or like up and left or something like that, right? Yeah, if they can only pick like 2 directions that can specifically form a right angle, then you cannot do a backless pass. You have to back manip. That's kind of like the very general rule of thumb. Am I able to demo the rocket ones later offline? Yes, I'll try my best to. I'll try my best to add those later. I just don't have the save file, so hopefully. Yes, the scientist walker shouldn't be too difficult, but I can't demonstrate it because the walker is gone. Once you beat Giovanni 2, basically all the rocket affiliated trainers are gone, and it's the same thing in Mount Moon. So I can't demonstrate the moon rocket pause, the scientist walker, the Sylph rocket triple pass. I can't really demonstrate any of those right now. I need like a special save file. Someone can just like send me one, and I can put it into my R4 no problem. But I just don't have access to it right now because I'm not like actively running this game right now. So I'm not very likely to just have a Surge save file, like a canned save file on hand. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's, I think I covered the gist of it. The gist of all, like, the, glitchless specific, any percent glitchless specific, passes and mechanics. Yeah, bike flashing and, like, audio lag skips. That's probably, like, a different thing, which probably don't need to, we don't need to spend that much time on that. I think I'll spend more time doing that for like a round 2 video, because there's way more examples of where those are necessary in round 2 than in just pure glitchless anyway. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's the this was the demonstration. I'll try and chop this up again. I didn't really prepare on any of this. I just kind of like figured this out on a whim. So a lot of it is very messy. I might just do like cleaner versions of this offline, so it's a little bit more succinct for newer runners to actually look at, and there's not a lot of like filler information and me making, you know, stupid mistakes because I have because I'm not playing this game right now and whatnot. But yeah.